In part two of my lawyer's review of the platforms of the various federal political parties in Canada's election, coming up in just under a week on September the 20th, 2021, I'm going to talk about firearms laws. Hello, my name is Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm a criminal defense lawyer in Stratford, Ontario, Canada, and welcome to Don't Talk TV. Earlier this week, I talked about what I believe to be the most important question of this election, really the question of the election, that being what type of Canada do we want to live in? One of compassion, inclusivity, and people having control over what goes into their own bodies, or a society where the government determines what you're allowed to do and has the power to force you to put things into your body that you don't want to. But another very important issue is that of firearms. Now, firearms rights at first blush may not seem to be something that's really deeply connected to the freedom of a country, but I would suggest that, or the amount of trust that a government places in its citizens is very indicative of how free that society is, and the attitude of the government is a huge piece of whether we're in a society that's trending towards totalitarianism or freedom. Because a government that doesn't trust its citizens at all, is scared of them, doesn't want them to be armed, doesn't want them to have a role in their own protection or in the protection of society, is one that's more totalitarian. Totalitarian in terms of the government being in control of everything, running everything, being your parent. So in that regard, firearms ownership is very crucial, and that's why I'm zeroing in on that on this episode. And I'm not talking about firearms laws in terms of firearms traffickers or smugglers, but law-abiding firearms owners, citizens who've taken firearms training courses, who've been vetted, don't have criminal records, and have been completely responsible and safe owners of firearms. That's what I'm focusing on here. And we're going to look at the main parties, although really we're going to focus just on the Liberals, the Conservatives, and the People's Party of Canada, because the NDP and the Greens, I can't find anything official from them. They apparently don't have a firearms policy, although based on past behavior and past voting, we can be pretty sure that they'll do exactly what the Liberals tell them to do. Or they'll support any Liberal policy, or they would themselves have a policy very similar. So let's start with the Liberal Party of Canada platform. So they have a platform here, ending gun violence. So let's look at what they're going to do. We'll ignore their editorialization at the top. So they're going to toughen our laws on banned assault weapons by making it mandatory for owners to either sell the firearm back to the government for destruction or fair compensation, or have it rendered permanently inoperable. So, I mean, let's talk about what that actually means. We're talking about banned assault weapons. That's the 1,500 or so firearms who were banned by way of an order in council because they didn't want to, or knew they couldn't pull off going through proper parliamentary procedures and due process. So an order in council is like the Canadian version of an executive order. So they banned a bunch of firearms, but assault style firearms, what are we really talking about? We're talking about firearms that are generally black in color with polymer instead of wood stocks, and that are semi-automatic, and generally a pistol grip and a removable magazine as well. But you can find the exact same firearm that comes with a wood stock, and instead of a pistol grip, a more traditional grip, and now all of a sudden it's not an assault weapon. I mean, this is a very politicized term, so I want to make it clear what they're talking about here. I mean, they make it sound like they're banning military-grade firearms with full automatic capacity. We're not talking about anything like that at all. We're talking about firearms that are generally used by sports shooters, and yes, they may well have a very effective self-defense aspect, but these are not military-grade firearms. So what they're saying is, all those firearms that they made illegal, they're now going to permanently take them away from all the people who owned them for years and years and years without any problem, without causing any harm to anyone. They're going to take them away. They're going to forcibly take them from them and give them fair market value compensation, which I suspect the Liberal Party of Canada's definition of fair market value is different than what fair market value really is. Okay, they're going to also crack down on high-capacity magazines. They're going to make it so that you can only have 5-round magazines that are permanently made that way. And they're going to set aside, of course, we always have to spend tons of money. You're going to set aside $1 billion to help places to implement a ban on handguns. Of course, they have to say to keep our cities and communities safe. Well, you can judge for yourself whether banning handguns is actually going to do anything. I mean, really, what you're doing is you're banning handguns from lawful firearms owners who have to take courses, who have to have background checks. You're going to make it so they're not allowed to own firearms anymore. I highly doubt it's going to have a lot of effect on gang members, but in any event, that's their platform. The Liberal platform, very clear. Clearly, massive bans are going to happen. They're going to take people's firearms with a bit of monetary compensation, and they're going to help cities to ban handguns from lawful owners. So that's the Liberal platform. Now, the Conservative platform, there's no point in even looking at their platform. Because what's on their website is very vague, but their platform doesn't matter. What matters is what Aaron O'Toole, the leader, says. So here we go. They did at one point have a platform saying they're going to undo the bans done by the Liberal Party with that order in council I just mentioned, but here we have a story from September the 5th. O'Toole reverses course on guns, will maintain Liberal ban during review of classification. So here we go. Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole is reversing course on a platform promising to overturn a ban on some 1,500 makes and models of what the government describes as, quote, military-grade weapons, unquote. So basically, the Conservative platform is the same as the Liberal platform. I don't know. They're not talking about a buyback yet. Maybe they're just going to keep these things banned. They say they're going to look into some reclassification. I have no idea what that'll look like. But the bottom line is they're saying they agree with the Liberal gun ban without commenting on why they're doing this. It's clear their policy is everything that was banned, including AR-15s, in the spring of 2020 stays banned under a Conservative government. So really little difference between them and the Liberal Party, in my view. Which brings us to the People's Party of Canada's platform, and they've entitled Respecting Legal Firearms Owners and Targeting Criminals. So let's see what their platform is. They say they are going to replace the Firearms Act and supporting legislation with new legislation that will prioritize effective measures to improve public safety and fight crime in Canada. They'll replace the costly and burdensome licensing system with an efficient lifetime certification. And I mean here, repeal Trudeau's 2020 cabinet decision to ban 1,500 types of firearms. And I think this is very important. Mandate that all future changes to firearms regulation be completed through Parliament only. So the People's Party of Canada, they have a very bold plan to completely revamp the firearms classification system. But aside from that, they clearly will undo the order in council from 2020, and they will institute a system that requires due process, whereby only Parliament can ban firearms in the future, which is something that I think should be hard for most people to argue against. Due process is due process. People should be in favor of that. But in any event, these are the clear choices when it comes to firearms. As with the video earlier this week, you really have four parties with one position and one party with another position. So something to keep in mind as you decide how you're going to cast your vote in this election. This video, of course, is not legal advice. If you need legal advice, please contact a lawyer. You can contact another lawyer or myself. My 1-855 number is listed below. And if there's anything you'd like to hear me or see me cover on the show, please leave a suggestion. You can either email me at the address listed below, or you can leave a comment in the comments section. And if you found this video at all interesting, helpful, or informative, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, following me on social media, and subscribing to me on either Odyssey, Rumble, or on YouTube.